Hi, I'm Poonam with SLC.TV, Salt Lake City's government access channel. And today I'm in the up-and-coming Central 9th neighborhood, which features local bars, eateries, grocery stores, and it's close to transit. If you haven't checked out the neighborhood, come on by. For this week's episode of Capital City News, we hear from Salt Lake City's planning director, Nick Norris, about how planning and zoning play such a vital role in neighborhoods like Central 9th. And our History Minute is about part 5 of our history of rail. Let's get started with our look back. The Redevelopment Agency of Salt Lake City hosted an urban design workshop and open house for the Central Station Area Plan Project. Community members and stakeholders viewed plans for the land near two of the city's most highly used light rail stops, Intermodal Hub and the North Temple Station. Project designers met with residents to answer questions and discuss ways design could help with redevelopment and connectivity. The Sego Lily Dam environmental art installation, located at the west end of Sugar House Park, is now complete and open for the public to enjoy. Salt Lake City Mayor Jackie Biskupski and Council Member Amy Fowler of District 7 joined the community to celebrate the new iconic feature, which serves as the state's largest environmental art installation in an urban setting. The Sego Lily will also provide historical context to the state's Native American and pioneer history for generations to come. Shovels are in the ground and construction is underway on new improvements to Pioneer Park. Mayor Biskupski, Councilmember Amy Fowler, Salt Lake City Parks representatives, and leaders of the Pioneer Park Coalition celebrated with a groundbreaking and donation ceremony to help fund the project. Construction includes a multi-purpose lawn, soccer field, recreation and event space, walking and lighting. The field will be ready for use in spring of 2019. Mayor Biskupski and project coordinators launched the second annual Project Homeless Connect with a call for volunteers. The one-day, one-stop event in Salt Lake City will aim to bring together over 500 community volunteers to provide services and help connect individuals and families experiencing homelessness. This year's event will be held on October 12th. To learn more, visit phcslc.org. City leaders and residents joined together with 38 million neighbors nationwide to participate in the 35th Annual National Night Out Against Crime. Community councils throughout the city hosted festivals, block parties, and more to connect neighbors, provide resources, and help decrease crime by looking out for one another. SLC police were on hand to meet with residents as part of their effort to build better relationships and partnerships within the community. Tour of Utah, America's toughest pro cycling event, returned to downtown Salt Lake City for stage 4 of its race, this time starting on Main Street. Mayor Biskupski kicked off the premier event where riders tackled 10 laps of the 6.8-mile downtown course, totaling 68 miles. Thousands of international fans and local spectators cheered on the pro athletes back to the finish line on Main Street. Dog lovers and their pals jumped into action for the 5th annual Yappy Hour event in Salt Lake City. The Puppy Paradise offered canines a place to play, relax, cool off, chill, and enjoy SLC's scenic park life. The excitement of the summer is not over. Join us for the next Yappy Hour on August 15th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Liberty Park, and again on September 15th from 5 to 8 p.m. at Fairmont Park. For details, visit SLCcityevents.com. For this week's interview, we hear from Nick Norris, Planning Director for Salt Lake City, about how planning and zoning play such a vital role in neighborhood development.
We're a fairly unique city because of the grid that we were platted on when we were first settled. So big wide streets, big huge blocks, which from a neighborhood perspective is really challenging. You want smaller blocks and smaller streets because it helps build that interaction and that social fabric. And so we have a big challenge trying to face that, or trying to deal with that. What's one of the great things about Salt Lake City is when you get away from our core area into these neighborhood nodes, such as the Marmalade Block, everybody knows about 9th and 9th, or 15th and 15th, even Sugar House neighborhood on a little bit larger scale. When you start looking at those places, they all have a lot of common characteristics. There's places for you to go and meet people and interact with people, to run into your neighbors, run into your kids' friends from school, all of those things, whether it's at a business, a sandwich shop, a park, like I said, utilizing a trail. So we're fortunate that we have those nodes established, and a lot of those nodes were established because of how we grew up. We grew up as a streetcar city. If you were to look at the old streetcar grid, a lot of those meeting points are where streetcar lines intersected. And so we have these not natural, but we have these historic patterns in our city that we're trying to capitalize on. We're in a period where we're trying to redo our zoning a little bit, and we're focusing on these nodes and our corridors because they're the opportunity and provide the best places for us to grow. One of the things that's really important is linking how we move around to where we're going, so that we can tie in our housing, our jobs, our shopping, all of those things, so that they can be relatively close to where people live, so they have choices on how they move about and where they're going. If your only choice is a car, then you add those added expenses. You get auto-oriented development like big parking lots, things like that, which don't generate revenue for the business owners, and they also don't generate property tax revenue for the cities. And so it's kind of a lost opportunity, and we want to reimagine that. So we're going through and updating our zoning to what's called a form-based code, and we're starting to do that strategically in those places where we either think there's great opportunity or where there's already really solid bones in place to build on. And so that's kind of what we're doing today. Hopefully what we want to talk about today is how we deal with that infill development. How do we respect the scale of what's around, but also achieve our city goals of housing and growth and those types of things. A form-based code, in the simplest terms, is basically, it's a type of zoning that looks at the type of building it is and the shape of the building versus the use of the building. Most of our zoning is a use-based, meaning you can do a list of permitted uses or a list of conditional uses, and then you just have some really loose kind of setbacks and building height regulations. Where in a form-based code, you're really looking at that type of building. So a townhome will have different characteristics than a single-family home, and you can cater those standards to those zoning rules to deal with that. Same with commercial businesses or public buildings like the library behind us. We can write those rules so that they can fit in better, acknowledging that some buildings are bigger by nature than what's around them. And so the form-based code allows us to respect that a little bit more and break, at least from a visual standpoint, break down larger buildings so they look smaller than they really are. For more information, you can go to our website at SLC.GOV/planning.
And now it's time for our History Minute.
Although city leaders regulated the cost of fares, they did nothing to regulate the rights-of-way for the roads. As long as the price of the fare was right, just about anyone could lay rails on the street and operate a streetcar. Perhaps the most bitter of rivals operating streetcars on Salt Lake City streets were the Salt Lake City Railroad Company, who pioneered the system, and the Salt Lake Rapid Transit Company, who came along shortly thereafter. At one point, workers from Rapid Transit were laying track for a brand new streetcar line on South Temple, while further back, men from the Salt Lake City Railroad were tearing up that very line to move elsewhere. Since the lines weren't regulated, both companies had cars running on the same tracks without any coordination. Once, two trolleys, one from each company, met on the same track, each trying to head in the opposite direction. Neither conductor would admit fault, nor would either of them move their car full of passengers so the other could pass. Eventually, city authorities were summoned to settle the dispute. This was how streetcars were run until 1901, when they were purchased by the Utah Power Company and transformed into the Consolidated Railway and Power Company.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Capital City News. Tune in next time to stay up to date on all the latest. For SLC TV, I'm Poonam Kumar, signing off from the lovely Central 9th neighborhood.